A cheerful smile, a splash in a puddle. But behind the music and charm of Singin' in the Rain lie stories you were never meant to know. Fact 1. Gene Kelly's joyful, rain-soaked dance is one of the most iconic scenes in film history. But few know he was burning up with a 103-degree fever during filming. Despite being sick, he insisted on completing the number. The shoot spanned several grueling days under cold water. His wool suit shrank from constant soaking, making movement harder.
Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face.
To make the water visible on camera, it was mixed with milk, making it sticky and unpleasant. Kelly choreographed the entire routine himself. He was exacting, demanding dozens of takes to get it right. His feet cramped, and he had to be wrung out between shots. Even the famous puddle stomping was improvised on the spot. He wanted it to look carefree, even while struggling. Studio execs didn't know he was sick until the scene was complete. He later admitted it was one of the hardest performances of his life, but he never let the pain show on screen. The result was pure magic, effortless and unforgettable. And to this day, audiences believe it was all just joy and rain. That's how Kelly wanted it. He believed the audience didn't need to see suffering to feel joy. And he was absolutely right. That scene became the gold standard for musical performance. And it all began with a man dancing through pain, not just puddles. He turned fever and fatigue into film immortality. Fact 2. Debbie Reynolds was only 19 and had no dance experience when she got the role. She trained for months to keep up with Kelly and OConnor. Rehearsals sometimes lasted 14 hours a day. The dance studio they used didn't have a women's bathroom nearby. When she asked for breaks, she was told to hold it. She'd crawl under pianos and curtains to relieve herself in secret. Her feet bled from hours in heels and she cried in private. Gene Kelly was notoriously tough on her. He mocked her dancing and scolded her mistakes. Fred Astaire once found her crying and encouraged her to keep going. She stayed and pushed through the pain. Her performance won over critics and audiences alike.
Have the first piece.
While her singing was dubbed, her dancing was all her own. Eventually, even Kelly admitted she was remarkable. She once said, "Singing in the rain and childbirth were the hardest things I ever did. Only one of those came with applause." And Reynolds earned every bit of it. The film launched her into superstardom. Behind the glitter was a girl barely out of high school, but she danced her way into legend.
Bum, a boodle beep beep bum, 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 a boodle beep beep bum, bum.
No breaks, no shortcuts. Her strength behind the scenes was just as impressive as what ended up on screen. She didn't just survive Hollywood, she conquered it. Fact 3.
Are we? No. Definitely no. Positively no. Decidedly no.
Make 'Em Laugh is one of the most exhausting numbers ever filmed. Donald O'Connor performed every flip, crash, and slide himself. No doubles. He had a background in acrobatics.
But Moses, he noses, his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes to be.
But this routine pushed him to the brink. He did the entire number multiple times in full takes. After filming it once, he collapsed from exhaustion. He smoked heavily, which made recovery harder. The scene was so demanding it sent him to the hospital. Then came the bad news. The footage was unusable. He returned days later and did it all over again. Despite the pain, he nailed it with a smile. Kelly later admitted he couldn't have done what O'Connor did. The routine almost got cut due to safety concerns. But the studio was stunned by the final result. It became one of the most iconic comedy dances ever filmed. O'Connor's body broke down, but the performance didn't. He made the world laugh while his lungs burned, and he never asked for a single break. The audience saw joy, not the wreckage behind it. That number defined O'Connor's career, and he gave it everything, twice. No wires, no tricks, just talent and tenacity. It was physical comedy at its most brutal and brilliant. Fact 4.
I'm happy again.
Today, the rain scene is the film's most iconic moment. But originally, it wasn't even in the script. The number Singin' in the Rain was written for a 1929 musical review. MGM reused it for this film as a nostalgic callback. Only later did the filmmakers decide to build a full number around it. The idea of Dancing in the Rain came from Gene Kelly himself. He wanted a solo number that felt spontaneous and euphoric. The technical challenge was enormous, especially lighting rain on camera. If lit incorrectly, water disappears on film. Engineers had to install overhead rigs and use backlighting techniques. To make it more visible, they secretly added milk to the water. This made the rain show up, but it also made everything sticky. Crew members had to mop between takes. Neighbors complained about water runoff during the shoot. Despite all that, Kelly refused to compromise. He pushed through illness and exhaustion to finish the scene, and the result became cinematic history, almost by accident. It was never meant to define the movie, but now it defines movie musicals. And without a last-minute creative gamble, it might never have existed. It's a testament to how improvisation can lead to iconography. And how one unscripted idea became the heartbeat of the film. Fact 5.
Got to talk into the mic.
Well, I can't make love to a bush.
John Hagen's unforgettable portrayal of Lena Lamont gave us one of cinema's most hilariously annoying voices. But here's the twist. That voice wasn't real. In real life, Hagen spoke with a clear, elegant voice. Her squeaky nasal performance was a comedic creation. In the film's plot, Debbie Reynolds dubs over Lena's voice, but in real life, someone else dubbed over Reynolds. That someone was Betty Noyes, an uncredited singer. So Hagen pretended to be a bad actress whose voice was dubbed by Reynolds, who was actually dubbed by someone else. It's one of Hollywood's most ironic voice layer tricks. Hagen's real voice can be heard in earlier films where she plays dramatic roles. She was so good at sounding bad that people thought it was her natural voice.
Call him Don. I was calling him Don before you were born.
In fact, her performance was so convincing, it earned her an Oscar nomination. She lost the award but gained legendary status. Even Kelly admitted Hagen's performance stole every scene she was in. Her screechy lines like, "and I can't stand him," became instant classics. Audiences laughed, unaware of the vocal layers beneath. The real Lena Lamont was a work of genius, twice removed. It was a voice inside a voice hidden in plain sight. Hollywood rarely gives credit to such subtle brilliance, but Hagen's layered performance still echoes through film history. She created a caricature so vivid, it became timeless, and she did it with a voice that wasn't even hers. Fact 6. Gene Kelly was a perfectionist, and that came with a price. His vision shaped the film's brilliance, but at great emotional cost. He demanded absolute precision from everyone on set. He rehearsed numbers until dancers collapsed from exhaustion. Kelly was especially hard on Debbie Reynolds, who was new to dance. He scolded her for minor errors and mocked her in front of others. Donald O'Connor called him brutal but brilliant. Reynolds later said she cried daily after rehearsals. Kelly even clashed with directors and choreographers. He believed every moment on screen had to be flawless. He once reshot a scene 40 times because a hat fell wrong. Crew members walked on eggshells during production. Despite this, most of them respected him. His intensity brought out their best, even if it broke them first. Kelly later expressed regret over how harsh he had been. He said perfection came at a personal cost, and for Singin' in the Rain, that price was paid in sweat and tears. Sometimes genius wears a scowl, and this one wore tap shoes. His work set the standard, but his process left bruises. It's a reminder that cinematic magic can come from very real pain, and that brilliance doesn't always wear a smile. Fact 7. Sid Shereice only appears for a few minutes, but she left a lasting impression. Her appearance in the Broadway Melody Ballet stunned audiences. With long legs, a green dress, and slinky moves, she electrified the screen. But not everyone approved. In several countries, her dance was censored or cut. Censors in Spain, Italy, and parts of the Middle East deemed it too provocative. They objected to her leg exposure and body language. Some edits removed her scenes entirely. Even in the US, there were concerns about its sex appeal. Shereice had just given birth and underwent intense training to get back in shape. Her tight costume restricted movement so much, she had to stand between takes. The dance itself was filled with coded meaning, temptation, danger, and seduction. It cost over $600,000 to film that brief sequence. Gene Kelly called her the best dancer I ever worked with. She said nothing, but her body spoke volumes. The moment was brief but unforgettable. Even decades later, the scene still sparks debate. And that's the power of a well-placed dance. What was once seen as scandalous is now celebrated as iconic. It pushed the boundaries of what musicals could express without a word. And Shereice did it with one mesmerizing look. Fact 8. Surprisingly, Singin' in the Rain wasn't written as a new musical. Almost every song in the film had already been used in earlier MGM productions. The studio owned a large catalog from the 1920s and 30s. Instead of composing original numbers, they reused old ones. The producer, Arthur Freed, had written many of those songs himself. The title song first appeared in 1929 in a now-forgotten film. Other tunes like Good Morning and All I Do Is Dream of You were also reused. Even Make 'Em Laugh was nearly identical to Cole Porter's Be a Clown. This approach saved time and money. It also gave the film a nostalgic, throwback feel. Writers crafted the story around the songs, not the other way around. Despite this, it never feels recycled. The choreography and acting made each number feel brand new. Audiences had no idea they were watching musical leftovers. That's a testament to the film's brilliance. Old songs, new magic, and nobody noticed the difference. Because in Hollywood, it's all about how you sell the show. The music wasn't fresh, but it felt timeless. And the audience walked away humming tunes older than the film itself. It was repurposed art turned into perfection. Fact 9. Rain looks romantic on screen, but it's a nightmare behind the scenes. To capture rain properly, you need intense backlighting. Without it, the water barely registers on film. The crew built massive rigs to simulate rainfall. But even then, the results weren't satisfying. So someone had the idea to add milk to the water. It made the rain show up, but it also made everything sticky. Gene Kelly's wool suit soaked it all in. Between takes, he was drenched, cold, and miserable. The set had to be mopped constantly to avoid accidents. Shooting happened mostly at night to control lighting better. Water pressure had to be managed to keep the rain consistent. Electrical cables were rerouted to prevent disaster. Neighbors nearby complained about the endless spraying. The whole sequence took days to shoot and exhausted everyone. Kelly insisted it had to feel effortless on screen. And somehow it does. It's magic. But it was built from milk, lights, and misery. Technicians worked nonstop behind the scenes to keep things flowing. What looked like freedom was actually tightly controlled chaos. And it took an army of soak professionals to make it rain. Fact 10. It's hard to believe, but Singin' in the Rain wasn't a massive hit on release. Critics gave it decent reviews, calling it charming but uneven. It earned money but didn't break records. The Academy Awards barely noticed it. No Best Picture nomination.
Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously.
Only Gene Hagen earned an acting nod. It was overshadowed by other musicals that year. The public liked it, but no one called it a masterpiece. Its true legacy took years to build. TV reruns in the 60s and 70s introduced it to new generations. Over time, its reputation grew. It climbed greatest films lists every decade after. The American Film Institute eventually named it the top movie musical of all time. Today, it's in the National Film Registry. It's taught in film schools and revered by directors. But at the time, it was just another MGM musical. History proved it was more than that. It was a classic in disguise. Sometimes legends take their time. Its brilliance wasn't immediate, but it was enduring. Like rainwater on pavement, it shimmered quietly until the sun hit it just right. And then the world saw it for what it was, a masterpiece. Bonus fact. One of the most iconic images in cinema history is Gene Kelly hanging off a lamppost, grinning in the rain. It looks spontaneous, joyful, even childlike. But the reality behind that shot was a grueling technical nightmare. The lamppost wasn't a simple street fixture. It had to be specially rigged to support Kelly's weight and allow him to swing safely. To get the perfect arc, engineers adjusted the lamppost multiple times. Kelly practiced the swing over and over, aiming to make it look effortless. Meanwhile, he was dancing on a slick, soaked street. The rain poured down at high pressure, and don't forget, it was mixed with milk. That meant the floor was sticky, slippery, and smelled sour. Kelly's shoes would stick mid-spin or skid when they weren't supposed to. He also had to lip-sync perfectly while moving and swinging, all in sync with the music. And all of it while running a fever and wearing a shrinking suit. After dozens of takes, he still wasn't satisfied. He pushed for more retakes to match the dreamy tone he imagined. It was all about rhythm, flow, and grace, no matter how brutal the setup was. In the final cut, the scene lasts just seconds, but it's the image everyone remembers. It captured the magic of movies by surviving the chaos behind them.